Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Index podcast, where we come together every couple of weeks to discuss on-chain data, chart crimes, and metrics that move the crypto industry. Today, I have with me Denning, Chief On-Chain Sleuth at Pantera Capital.
Hi.
Kofi, formerly Bundler Bear, but now something at base. we forgot to give you a real title, but anyways, I am Boxer and I'm the community powers at Dune. And before we start, nothing we say here should be relied upon as legal, financial, investment, tax, or even life advice. The views expressed in the podcast are not representative of our employers' views. We're acting independently of our respective professional roles. And with that, GM Kofi, good to have you back. I think it's been 2 years, 2 whole years.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, time flies.
The tagline is such a throwback because just like, first of all, like Kofi now is a senior data scientist at Base/Coinbase. And the tagline we had 2 years ago said he's the only crypto data analyst who knows how to build a front end. But now everybody just spin up front ends with AI agents. Yeah. Like your moat is gone, Kofi.
Exactly. Yeah. Every day I wake up just depressed because all of the skills that we spent the past decade working on are just, it's just commodities now, man.
Yeah. It's actually a fantastic introduction to this episode because Kofi doesn't need an introduction, so we'll skip that whole part of like who you are and like how you got here. People can listen to the old episode if they're interested. But the front end part, or like the front end part being like now redundant, is largely because AI just allows everyone to build front ends now. And I think when you initially kind of like built Bundle Bear, and I think there was like a few other websites that you built.
Yeah, it was like I did like a gas tracker, and when I was contracting for school, I did a site for them. I just made a bunch of different things.
And L2 fees.
Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was homegrown, or like at least partially homegrown code, right? Like this was like organic. Like you actually would like hook up things yourself and like develop everything. And like sure, ChatGPT was around, but like it wasn't like super helpful and kind of like there was no agentic coding or anything like this. So it's like you literally had to learn front end skills to be able to like deploy these front ends. But then eventually, like now, I literally have a front end for this podcast. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it went from like being able to use ChatGPT as a replacement for Stack Overflow, like, oh, you need to know front-end engineering, but then you just ask questions, to now agents just do all the work. You're just sitting here, just waiting for the agents to be done doing all the work for you.
Because of that, and Kofi recently made posts on whatever across the socials where you used the Herd MCP. So previous podcast guest Andrew and friend of the pod Andrew is developing tools for agents to be able to understand on-chain data more easily. And you did a very nice demonstration kind of like with just pulling up your preferred coding agent environment, which was OpenCode, and then connecting that to your Herd MCP, and simply like with the simplest code, with the simplest prompt ever of like, hey, there's this transaction, like what does this do, or something along the lines. So I would say for the structure of this podcast, we'll just watch like a minute of this real quick, and then we can kind of like discuss the implications of this, like how that actually changed our workflows. And like I think we all probably have like a good few war stories, but I think just for anyone who's like completely unaware that like this is a world out there and like you can just tell your agents to fix things for you, investigate things for you, I think this should be a good proper introduction. So let me go and share my screen here for a second.
MCP, what does this contract do? So it's done running through, and I can see that this contract is a bot that does some swaps and interacts with gauges. Then, I want a bit more context. I can ask it, to say, look at the past few transactions for this contract and describe them. Okay. And it's done that analysis. It's explaining to me that there's 3 main types of transactions that this bot is making. And it's making all these transactions on the aerodrome with USDC pool. It's executing trades. It's providing liquidity. And then after it provides liquidity, it's staking its LP NFT in the gauge. So that's really interesting. I now understand why there were a lot of stablecoins, specifically USDC, flowing to this contract. I can explain to my team what this bot is doing and what it's trying to do.
I think that's enough of a glimpse into this.
Yeah.
I think for anyone who's just listening, we were looking at basically a terminal window from Kofi's laptop, and he was prompting OpenCode with a bunch of different things of use the Herd MCP, or like I think you didn't even specify the Herd MCPs, just embedded in the context.
To figure it out on its own.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like here, like what does this contract address do? And this was just a contract address from Base, actually. I didn't know that Herd was working on Base already.
Yeah, it works on Base and Ethereum mainnet.
Okay, they chose the right chains. Interesting. So yeah, but yeah, maybe Kofi, like, if you would describe, like, in your day-to-day, like, do you do this specific workflow a lot, or was this kind of like a special investigation that you're just kind of kicking off on time?
Yeah, 100%. This is definitely something I do a lot. Like, for instance, I think in this example specifically, I was showing how I make data sets, and making data sets maybe takes up 80% of my time at work. And there's usually maybe about 3 main steps to that. And the first step is what we were seeing here, which is the exploration step of just figuring out, what does this protocol do? Or how does this app work? What are the relevant contracts? What events should I be looking at on those contracts, and so on? And in the past, it was hard to automate something like this because all of the background knowledge that you need is very fragmented. Like, we have a lot of experience, so we know what LP means and flash loan and ERC 437 and all of these terms, but none of this information is stored in one place. It's all over the place. And when you're doing an investigation, you might be flipping through a bunch of different tools. So you'll check some pages on Etherscan, check some things on Dune and everything. So all of the information is there, but it's really just fragmented all over the place. And Herd did a good job of pulling together both all of the general knowledge and all of the data tooling to just be able to do that exploration with your agent in one place. So yeah, being able to say, take a look at this contract. How does it work? If it's a contract for a prediction market. Okay, tell me which events should I use if I want to track volume on this prediction market. And having both the understanding and the tool access to be able to answer all of that, so that you can like load up, and for us, it would be like, oh, we're trying to understand how the protocol works so that now we can write code. Now it's just, how do I load up the context window with all of the necessary information that it can then write the code? Because the agents can already write better SQL than all of us. The only gap is that they don't understand how this protocol works and what they need to do, like what actually is the query that they need to write. So the exploration phase is just all about filling up the context window with all of the context that this agent will need to write all of the code. So Herd makes the exploration phase super easy. And then writing a plan, this is like basic stuff. Everybody uses agents to write a plan of just say, hey, now that you understand what's going on, like you understand the protocol and you understand what elements are needed for this task and everything, write me a plan of how you're actually going to make this data set. And we make plans for a bunch of different reasons. One, so that we can review how the agent is planning to do it. So if it's misunderstood something, you can fix that in the plan. Two, it's also good because like if you make a step-by-step plan, then like you can close that agent, have another agent actually write the code. So, you could do this for a bunch of different reasons. You could say that like, oh, I want a really, really smart model to write the plan, and then I'll use a really dumb and cheap model to execute the plan to save on token costs. Or you might do it because you're like, hey, when I was exploring things with Herd, I really filled up my context window, like 50% of my context window is full. And a lot of people might have experienced that when your context window is really full, the agent just gets dumber and dumber because now it's got all of this information loaded up, it gets confused. So you're like, oh, write a plan. Now I can close this agent, clear the context window, brand new context window, and therefore smarter agent. Now actually write the code. So yeah, exploration, planning, and then the last bit, just telling an agent to just execute the plan, make the data set for me. And in the past, that would have been maybe a whole day of work of like, hey, exploring that protocol yourself, figuring out how exactly you're gonna make a data set for it, and then actually writing all of the code line by hand. And now it's just a lot easier, just having a conversation and getting the agent to do it. And now your job is really just as a reviewer to one, review the plan, make sure that it's intending to do the correct thing, and two, to review the final result and be like, hey, does this final result actually make sense? So it's definitely a workflow that I use all the time, and it's just completely changed how my day-to-day work life looks like. It's like now, instead of writing code, it's just I'm reviewing a lot of code and also figuring out how to manage a bunch of agents in the best way to actually get all of my tasks done. Yeah, it's just different.
Maybe zooming in there a little bit on this like specific, like I figure that most of our audience will be data scientists, data engineers, data analysts, people who are like work in similar positions as we do. But like you're essentially doing like, okay, I spot something on a block explorer. Or like, a colleague is like, what the fuck is this? Like, why is there, I think this base USDC example specifically is like, I think like 95% of USDC that moves on base is related to this bot contract. So like, Kofi, why is this? And then you just go and you're like, okay, Herd, like, why the fuck, like, what is happening here? Or like, not Herd, but like, hey, agent, like, you have all of these tools at your disposal. You can use whatever, the Herd MCP, the Allium MCP, the Dune MCP. You could use the Block Scout MCP. I think DeFi Llama also has like MCP tooling, although I've not used it. And for like DeFi Llama wouldn't be that like useful in this case. But anyways, you essentially like, okay, now I understand this. But then like, what do you do with like once you have the understanding? Like what is the actual like outputs that you produce?
Yeah, so it varies. So I mean, in a case where there's an anomaly like that, using the agent to help explain the anomaly, that's a pretty straightforward thing. It's just, look at what's happened, use your general knowledge and the tooling to help me understand what went on faster than maybe I would have myself. That's one use case. Another use case, which is more on the dataset side, is a colleague comes and asks you, hey, I don't know, we're interested in perps protocols on base or something like that. We want to track all of the perps activity happening on base at the moment. And now, instead of reading a bunch of bad documentation to try and find all the contracts for all the different perps protocols, understand how those contracts work, so that then to make the data set, it's like, no, just chat to the agent. It's just, hey, here's a list of protocols. Tell me about them. Okay. Explain the contracts. This is the information that I want to get out. What exactly should we query? And now make a plan. And maybe the things that you're providing are more things that are proprietary to your own team, right? So like one thing the Herd MCP or Dune MCP might not know is that like internally, these are the data sets that we have available, and this is how we like to structure our dataset code. And so you might either be providing that manually, or nowadays I would just make a skill or something like that that would give the agent context on like, hey, I'm telling you to do something. This is how at this company, this is how I would like you to do it in terms of, use this source, write the Airflow or DBT or whatever code this way. And then just, letting the agents run with it. So that's like a very common, those two scenarios, explaining a weird event, making a data set, those are like two very common scenarios where I'd be using an agent for something.
Yeah.
And then even the next phase of like, somebody says, make a dashboard or make a report or something explaining this, can also just use an agent for that. I don't know if you guys have used it, but the Hex agent is super good now. So like Hex is a tool for making dashboards. A lot of people listening to this podcast might have used Hex. Nowadays, I don't write code in hex. I just say, hey, here's the data set that I've made in the pubs example, data set of all pub trades on base. Make me charts for like daily volume, for weekly volume, for number of users, put it in this section, add this header, oh, make this a line chart, make it a bar chart. It just does everything and then publish. So now it's really like every stage of the process an agent can help with. And it's just a matter of using the right tools, providing your specific company context, and like dealing with sort of the logistics of orchestrating all of these things. Just the fact that the agents can do so much, but as a human being, you're the bottleneck. Like I could theoretically have 100 agents running, like some people on Twitter claim that they do, but I can't review 100 agents worth of work. And so then you just need to manage it according to your actual ability to focus on things. But yeah, I don't know how you guys are like. I know that people post a lot of engagement bait about like, oh, I'm running 50 agents. I run 20 agents when I sleep. But like, how many terminals do you guys actually use at a time? And like, do you ever feel like there's a time when you're really like running a bunch of agents in terminal when you're not at your laptop? Like, realistically, like, what are you guys actually doing?
I'm pretty naive and more embedded using agents in my workflow. So not really, except it's just if it's like scraping data nonstop. Like if there's like a hyperliquid data endpoint that doesn't allow you to query historical data endpoint, and you want to keep like querying the streamed like order book or something, I may have a agent running when I'm away from home. But honestly, not very creative. Curious about boxers.
Box is also not very. It's like at the end of the day, like I mean, I've kind of like stepped into product management roles, so like my agent usage is also like very different. Where like my job is essentially context switching. So like I will literally have like 7, 8 like kind of like sessions running, but like the sessions might be stalled for like a couple hours until like I start one task, then I like go on like a million side quests, and then at the end of the day it's like, oh yeah, I started this earlier in the day, let's just finish this. And it's like I feel like it's not that different from what I was doing manually before, because like I think, Kofi, as you rightfully say, it's like the bottleneck is still kind of like your context window. Like the agent's context window can be as big as it can be, but like, you can maybe deal with like 7 things at once and not kind of like completely just go insane with like the lack of context of things. And like even that is like, is that really the most efficient way to do things? Wouldn't it be better to maybe you can do 2 things in parallel and then like finish those and then start with a new like 2 tasks or something. So like, I don't know.
That's the question now, just figuring out like what's the best system. Like you're doing 7. I think I'm more on the side of like, as you were saying, like using 2, maximum 3 agents at a time, where it's like, usually I'll have a main priority for the day of like, this is the most important, most complicated task. And 90% of the time, my time will be spent talking to that one agent on that one problem, on that one branch, just giving it all of my attention. And then there'll be like 2 or 3 ad hocs that like, oh, somebody on the team has asked this. It's not very high priority, but I'll try and help them out with it. And so it's like, there'll be some smaller agents running in the background trying to answer those questions. I'll send off some prompts. I'm not paying attention to them. Similar to yours, it's like, they might get to the answer and just be waiting for an hour for me to actually go and check whether the answer was correct. And yeah, now it's really just a matter of figuring out that I know that when it comes to the really deep work, I'm mostly just going to be collaborating with one agent synchronously to get the deep work done. So those other 2 agents or something that's doing smaller ad hoc stuff, how do I just spend the minimum amount of time prompting and then reviewing their work so that I can focus on the thing that actually move the needle? And everybody's different, like depending on your job and also depending on your like how your brain works. Some people will have a great time working with 7 agents at the same time and just like switching between a different window every 10 minutes. And some people like me will just be like, I can only look at one window at a time. And then maybe once every 2 hours, I'll stop and look at, quickly look at what the 2 other windows were doing and then go back to the main one.
Oh, that's interesting. Like my bottleneck is like I'm just waiting for agents to like finish churning through things. And like I find myself essentially like, I send off the first agent, the agent starts working, and like then I'm like, okay, what do I do now? And it's like, okay, I check Slack, there's no new messages. Okay, I like go and figure out the next agent's task. I send a prompt to that agent. That agent then like takes a lot of time, and then like I start the third agent, and like I think like, and then eventually I circle back to the first one. And like sometimes I get lost where I'm like, okay, like the first one that was actually the priority has now been waiting for me for an hour, which absolutely sucks. But I think like I feel like the processing times of agents have become like more in the last like couple of weeks.
Are you using Claude? You should switch to
Which model are
Codex.
you using?
Oh, I'm actually using Cursor, and then like in Cursor you just have the like you can just choose whatever model you want. So
But what model do you use?
Like mostly Opus 4.8, and then like
Yeah.
But oftentimes like the good thing about, and like I really love Cursor for like I think for my use case, I think like Claude Code has like, I also use Claude Code, but like oftentimes it feels like the kind of like terminal first interface UI is like limiting to me. Like I'm not like this, like I've never learned to fucking properly code. Like I'm like, this has enabled me so much. So like, I don't want to regress to like, and now I'm like in a fucking terminal, and like, I don't even know
you can have a chat window in Claude Code. You don't need to have a terminal window.
Yeah, I know, but like it's still like, it just feels like the tasks that I'm trying to solve are like I'm like over engineering solutions if I'm starting to use Claude Code. Whereas Cursor is like, I feel like Cursor like works the line perfectly between like, okay, you can be like, you can actually inspect the code and you can do stuff. Where like, if you use Claude, like Claude Code within the Claude, like within the Claude thing, the Claude whatever app, then it feels like it's abstracting too much away. And I feel like Cursor like perfectly walks the line between like, I want to be able to understand what the hell this thing is doing, and like I can understand, and like I can send multiple models on its way as well. Where like I think, Kofi, that's probably why you use OpenCode, because you can actually have access to like the OpenAI models, to the Anthropic models, and then like you can even like Cursor has Composer 2.5, which is actually like for a lot of smaller tasks, like I will send Composer 2.5 because it's just like, it's so much faster than like sending like
the fastest one.
Yeah, sending like a giant Opus like 4.8 high on its way. It's like completely insane, and like also you're just burning money. Like frankly, we haven't got the notice internally yet of like, guys, you need to be careful about your AI spending. I mean, there's like a few things where like, okay, like keep your context window small, and like maybe install like these few add-ons, and like don't just fucking send like, how's this new model called, Mithril on its way without any good reason.
Boxer, I think all your problems because you're using Claude. You need to use Codex, because like Claude, first of all, is super costly somehow with like the quota. I'm on a cheaper model plan. Just like whenever I use Opus, it runs out of my quota out after like 5 prompts. I'm still stuck in like Sonnet, but Codex is great. I think like fundamentally, it's because like Anthropic didn't buy enough compute and like, or GPU or something, and like OpenAI signed way more lease than they need, and like you just never can use up to your usage like below 98%. You always have 98% left. I'm even on just like a $10 per month plan for OpenAI, so you should definitely switch between different models, because I think at this current phase, it's still unclear what's the pricing is a fair pricing. Like all these companies are just like figuring it out, like based on the market competition and all that, right? Like there was a time in March, it's not able to use like on Claude Code. Like I will run one prompt on Opus and ran out. So I just like got forced to switch between models. And I think like you should always testing like in between models at this current early stage of AI,
I mean, I am using multiple models. It's just maybe my like I've frankly done very little like harness optimization. Like I have a lot of skills and MD files and
that's
like all
true.
of this stuff, but like I know that some of our engineers, they had literally have like built their own tool suites, and like, they have a custom interface for like reviewing the code that the AI writes for them and all of this stuff. And like, I'm just like, guys, like, sure, like maybe for them that's the most optimal system, but I've been like very stern on like, if you need like these fucking, like in the ChatGPT era, like people were like releasing these prompting guides, and like
I
then
do
people were
remember
doing
that prompt engineering was a
yeah,
thing.
it's like, and
Yeah.
then people
Oh
started
boy.
doing like, the open clause setups, and like they were spending, like I feel like a lot of people are just wasting a lot of productivity and kind of like trying to perfect their setup, where like I think these companies are not stupid. Like they're some of the most valuable companies in the world right now. So like as soon as anything like becomes valuable enough to like actually be helpful in using these AIs, the like Anthropic or Cursor or OpenAI will just integrate it into their core tool of suits like in a couple of weeks. So like sure, there's like, if you're doing like, I think like hardcore engineering work where you just literally like, I have to migrate like one code base to another code base, I think there's like, okay, there's like a lot of harnesses and a lot of like all of the stuff is like probably very warranted, where you're like, okay, like let me set up a testing suite, and like let me make sure that like this agent corrects that agent's work, and like this agent like reviews all of this, and like, but I think for most of people, it's just like, just put the prompt into the chat, like what are we doing?
Yeah, yeah,
The prompt
yeah.
in the box.
When you guys say you use multiple agents, do you just mean there's multiple chats, or
Yeah,
do
just
you
mean
have? Okay,
and
but do you
also
also use
just
like multiple agents within one chat?
no, I rarely use sub agents in terms of like, yeah, having one chat where there's multiple agents doing different tasks. It is something that I do want to experiment using more. But yeah, right now my default behavior has just been open another window and in that other window have another agent doing something else. Um, and mostly at the moment, in terms of tasks that require thinking, I've been using GPT 5.5. And then, like, if it's a smaller thing that does not require big brain activity, like Opus 4.6. And yeah, there is like a little bit of time in between, like waiting for something to process, but I try and I don't know. I think that a lot of the tasks that I give, I try and split the work into very small chunks of like, oh, try this, fix this, what's that? And so I don't have like long periods where I'm just, sitting there waiting for the agent to complete like a 5-step thing. I'm just like, no, just do one thing and then let me look, do another thing and then let me look. Um, and so, yeah, I don't find myself waiting a lot. I think that yeah, there's also probably some influence, like you were saying, of some companies being able to offer faster inference than others, and that would just change over time as like uh, different companies, change their setups and stuff. Um, Composer 2.5 is definitely the fastest, though. That one is crazy, and I do understand what you were saying about Cursor in terms of it is nice to be able to see the code and see the agent conversation in the same place. Um, I, for the longest time, was using Cursor for everything, and I still use Cursor quite a bit. But um, nowadays, I've really just spent a lot
Yeah.
more time in OpenCode.
I feel like I'm drawing an analogy here. So like when Kofi, you were saying like now there's like I saw in your demo, as you also mentioned, that you had like the Hex integration, you had the Google Workspace integration, probably like also ingest your company private data set or something, and then you have Herd MCP, you probably have like Dune MCP as well, and like you have everything like set up, and then now you're the one that's driving the vehicle. And you're
Yeah.
basically like, okay, give me a plan. Basically, like, give me a route. I want to get there. Give me a route. Let me look at it. Looks good. Okay, let's drive. But Boxer is a different type of user who are like a little bit more paranoid. It's like, I want to see the route, but also I want to see the engine is running correctly, like in this way. Like you want to see the car transparent, and you want to see how it works. Like
Not that much, to be honest. Like I like having the option. Like I think like a lot of the like sometimes I will just make like a random front end PR, And then like, I don't want to be the annoying fucking PM that like just does like the worst fucking possible front end code. So,
but you're actually looking at the front end code. Like nobody does that.
I like
these
look
days.
at it and be like,
nobody looks at
does this
it.
make any sense? Or it's just like, even with
But,
like
like,
the rudimentary understanding that I have, it's like, you can still like adhere to like, okay, like do not repeat your code. I think that's like one of the core
here's
rules.
the thing. I feel like maybe because you understand front end code, you're like, let me look at if it's working correctly. But for me, who never coded front end code, like the front end is whatever I'm seeing in the front end. Like I don't care about the code. But when I ask them to write like query on Dune, I want to look at the Dune query because I know the query. And I'm like, wait, why are you using this case when? And like, if you do this, like, wait, why are you using this column from this Dune table? So I want to double check all that. So I think there's a difference of like, basically human knowledge makes you like have a different threshold of like trust to the
of course, in some instances you just need to blindly trust. But I don't know. I just feel like it has historically evolved that I'm like most comfortable and like everything's set up here. I'm not married to it. Like if it would go away tomorrow, I could probably switch to OpenCode or Claude Code and like my productivity would basically be unchanged. But yeah, for now it works the best for me. But maybe I think like we've just been rambling for a while. Maybe what are like, I think it's still a good conversation, but to get to like more concrete learnings for our listeners, like where do you think the gaps are maybe that currently you are not able to solve within your kind of like data analysis, data engineering journey? Is there like any like big things that you still like? What is still taking so long? Why can't you just like ask the like give this thing a 5-minute whisper flow ramble and like it just builds like a complete dashboard? Like where's the like missing links?
Yeah, I think that there's two missing links. The one of the missing links is in the aspect of building up systems to provide all of your specific company or product context. So say that I want to make one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm working on an agent that will automatically answer some of the ad hoc questions that some people from my team ask me. So it's like, oh no, just talk to this agent. You don't even need to ask me. And it's great. But the hard part of that is that, you actually need to sit down and like, whether you're doing it in terms of markdown files or doing it in somewhere else, you need to actually sit down and write all of that context of like, here are where all the tables are. If somebody says this metric at this company, this is what this metric means. A common mistake would be like, oh, you calculate things like this. No, do this instead. So like all of that information of here's the playbook of like in every scenario, this is exactly how I want you to behave. And this is where to look for information. And these are the pitfalls. Like writing that playbook to basically replace yourself is like that, it still takes quite a while to write that playbook because of course you have so much experience and you have so many different types of work that you do that like sitting down to actually record all of it and write all of it in a way that an agent will understand, it's like that takes a while, which is one of the reasons why like a product like Herd is really good because they've put so much general knowledge into Herd that like that helps to cut some of the needs. So that's one thing of like one, just building up the knowledge base. That's the right word. The knowledge base such that like an agent can actually behave the way that you would behave in that scenario. The other sort of next step is sort of more on the whether people want to use agent engineering, orchestration engineering, people will come up with some Twitter word for this. But in terms of like your system of a self-fulfilling to-do list, where like eventually the end goal, as we're talking about, is like you just say something into Whisper or you just add something to a linear board and the task just gets done. It's like, how does that actually work? Like, are you using a loop where like an agent is checking linear every time? And then at what point do you want it to prompt you for review? At what point do you want it to send you a notification? Like actually making the self-fulfilling to-do list system is the other side of that. So yeah, one, the knowledge base, and two, making your like orchestration system that will handle all of these things. That's the only thing now that's like remaining between where we are today and just the magic phase where things just will just magically happen. And we'll all just go on walks and so all happen in the background. So, yeah. Like everybody's working on their own versions of that.
I feel like we're working on exactly the same problems. Like this is also like the next step of evolution for us, where it's like, okay, how can we enable agents to kind of autonomously like solve tasks and then just tag humans for our view instead of like, somebody has to sit down, load all the context into this window. It's like, how can we give the agents context from the get-go? But yeah, I feel like now that you say it like this is actually a bit scary because we are already really far. Like this is literally just a harness problem where it's like you just need to find the right configurations and the right context and like the right markdown files and like all of this stuff. And then like, you can kind of relax, kick back and be fired. I mean,
be fun. We'll all go on vacation.
Yeah, we'll all be on UBI and live in the pods. It's wonderful.
I feel like I agree on a high level, but my way of framing it would be like context, yes. Like basically your offline interaction with the PM or collecting the product specs. Honestly, that part can even be one day like agent automated. Like there are now these people like testing all these like meeting transcript being translated into specs in real time. So that part might be already feeding context into like the task in the future in a way. But I think the other important part, I feel like it might fit into the buzzword harness, but basically give a good workflow or like your habits to the agent. And so you don't repeatedly like doing the same thing without knowing. Like basically, for example, if you're doing research, you kind of have to have hypothesis and then you test the hypothesis. If it's wrong, then keep digging into why it's wrong or like give a new hypothesis. So I believe that's kind of basically the idea of auto research. And so to do actually good research. But yeah, I feel like basically building, like extracting yourself into the agent or basically distilling yourself.
Distilling yourself into a playbook that the agent can just follow.
Yeah.
And then the harness engineering part. And then that would be...
If you compare engineer versus a senior engineer, it's because the senior engineer knows how to like check their feedback and like loop it into the iteration and all that. So I feel like a lot of us are currently at that phase. So basically like go beyond from using the agent directly to like building habits and teach the agents how you think and how you iterate.
Thankfully, it's all recorded on some meeting transcripts or podcasts or Slack conversations or Notion docs or whatever. So it kind of automatically happens in the background. I feel like what you said earlier on training the agent, Kofi, if you guys have the Slack MCP, you can literally just be like, review my interactions of the last 100 days and extract the commonalities. But anyways, we've run out of time here. But it's been wonderful to have you back, Kofi. Hope to see you again sooner than in 2 years. Thanks for coming on. And thanks everyone for listening. You've listened to the Index podcast. See you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. Crypto data wizards, come join us for the parade. From Bitcoin ETF to Solana meme coin trade. Uncovering public secrets in the blockchain shade. Chiller, cherry picking liar. We call them out and set chart crown on fire. Index podcast, crypto data empire.